You want to see Neeb still at least be able to perform, even if you are a Spirit fan. You want to see good games, and I do have a little bit of hope in just the fact that Neeb has still been getting a lot of praise from some of the other players, and he was able to take some of those games versus Rogues. But here we are, guys. We're moving into game number 1 on Hardwire. Starting up here at the top right-hand side of the map, we have the Polish Terran player. He goes by the name of Spirit from Kaizi Gaming.
And the man in the bottom left who will be receiving an eBay on his next roll soon is going to be the man from America, Things Neeb. We saw that first SCV already move across the map very quickly. Neeb, however, opening up with just a proxy rack scout and a low ground gateway. A low ground gateway tends to be one of these things. Oh, this might actually not be an eBay block here, Ravi.
Oh, you think it's proxy racks?
This could be perhaps a proxy marauder. It could still be an eBay block, don't get me wrong. I've actually seen Spirit do this before with those 2 gas openers, but this is different than you usually play it, and he's not going to be happy to see that pylon there. Let's take a look at his face. Well, no real emotion, but I can tell you the inside is not going to be happy whatsoever.
Yeah, and one thing that we have definitely been seeing from Neeb is going for this low ground gateway, getting the Cybercore a little bit further back, and he starts up the Zealot. And of course, it's going to actually make sense to try and start up the Zealot if you are worried about trying to clean up this engineering bay block as fast as possible. But he's been making that that Zealot even against build orders that aren't really engineering bay blocking him, and he sends it across the map, tries to put a little bit of pressure on. I really want to see how Neeb is going to play this out, because this is the first time I've seen him do it against an engineering bay block, and it's actually so far, interestingly enough, doesn't start up the Zealot at all. Yeah,
I do like this. The Zealot is a little bit expensive. It delays that Nexus by a lot and also delays the second gas. Neeb has been mining a lot of gas already. Look at that, 140 gas out of a single gas. This smells so much like a Stargate opener to me. I wouldn't have minded if Spirit would have stayed a bit longer there with that SCV just to check if the Warp Gate starts. Because if Warp Gate doesn't start, and you see that with the SCV, you can pretty much say that it's going to be a Stargate. I do believe we're going to be going into a Stargate here. I know Neeb likes to open up with a Stargate against double gas openers. And I think Rotti mentioned it before as well. Neeb against these cheeky Terran build orders tends to be great. He's absolutely fantastic in the first 4 or 5 minutes against these weird build orders. And with a Stargate opener, life's just going to be so much easier.
There's that Stargate that you were talking about planting on down. There is going to be a Widowmine follow-up over here from Spirit. Now, the Adept comes on forward. It's going to be able to scout out that reactor on the factory, and it actually should be able to stick around long enough if it really wants to see what pops out over there, but doesn't end up letting that Shade finish up. Even though there's not a whole lot of threat right now, he doesn't necessarily know that for sure just yet. He's going to wait for that second Adept to poke on forward and see what he can spot.
Yeah, life is often very scary for these Adepts, because if the first 2 units, of course, are Hellions, then you need to run for your life, you shade back home, maybe you take a bit too much damage, and it can get kind of scary. However, this time around, Spirit just opening up with Mine, and I think Neeb is actually very aware of that. We will start with an Oracle, and I think the follow-up will be Phoenixes. There are 2 responses to this. You can either open up with a Phoenix, throw down a fast robotics facility, or you can go an Oracle into those Phoenixes. You just got to make sure that the Oracle is in position and doesn't accidentally fly into a mine at some point. And you will also just need to pull away workers. I mean, you just don't have enough to lift all the mines. Adepts will not be capable of one-shotting. There will be 3, 4 Adepts max. How many Adepts do we actually currently have? I think only 3.
3. Yeah, so not a lot of firepower out there right now. And Neeb's Adepts barely missed out on the medevac. So does the Oracle, as it is moving to the center of the map. So it is going to be able to barely pull back in time just because Spirit takes a slightly more roundabout path to try and be a bit extra sneaky. But that first Phoenix is on the way. Even if you know everything is coming, you still have to execute the defense perfectly over here. First, Widowmine goes down. Second Widowmine gets lifted. Third Widowmine, oh my god, Stretch Armstrong Widowmine pole vaulting the shot over, gets 5 workers, and also softens up that Phoenix.
Yeah, this actually was, it looked like almost the perfect defense. He pulled the workers, attacked with the Oracle, and then that one mine still gets these 5 worker kills all the way from downtown. 4 more mines will come in, and the energy on these Phoenixes is, well, it's not there anymore. This is the final lift that we're going to be see. Oh my good lord, 6 workers. I didn't even see that mine burrow, and neither did Neeb. Neeb in a world of trouble. I said he's usually very good against these 2 gas openers, but so far, Spirit just a little bit too strong with that quick harassment.
Yeah, you can lift up some of these Widow Mines now, but this is already a lot of the danger zone here. When a Terran player is only behind by one or two workers at this stage in the game, it is not ideal, but Neeb also has mostly just invested into these Oracles, these Phoenix. He's going to still be losing some of his mining time to these Widow Mines until he cleans all of them up. And behind this, Spirit is starting to get his transition up. He's getting up a safety Cyclone. He's adding on his Marines and his barracks and thinking about the next stages of the game as he establishes his own natural expansion.
He actually lost the one Oracle as well, didn't he? I didn't even notice that, but I think he had to rebuild it. That's obviously awful. Yeah, this is a terrible start here for Neeb. Another mine shot and another drop into the main base. This is going to require 2 more Revelations to actually pick up. Spirit but not quite fast enough with the split there was Spirit. I think he should split these mines in the natural as well. At the same time, we have 2 adepts on the other side of the map, but Cyclone in position. Oh, Viking will need to land. Quick repair on the Cyclone. Good control out of Spirit, who's pulling further and further ahead in this game.
Doing a fantastic job with the micro. He's going to be able to lock onto another one of these stalkers. Is able to net the kill as Neeb tries to retreat on out. Everything is starting to snowball further and further out of control as more probes go down. It really feels like this has just been a game for Spirit to seize control of. Neeb, even though he may have had some suspicions about the Widow Mine dropping, again, it does come down to the fact that you still have to execute the defense perfectly.
Yeah, and these defenses often are so snowbally. I think that first hit really kind of messed with him. Then at some point, if you lose the Oracle, life is over as we know it. There's still no Twilight Council. Sure, there's a third base, but you're also going to need to defend the Stim Combat Shield push at some point. Lift on this mine with that Oracle still at home. These Phoenixes have not done any damage whatsoever on the other side of the map. And at this point, I'm not quite sure if Neeb is capable of doing any damage on the other side of the map, because there's enough units there.
Yeah, it's only 4 Phoenix right now. The Cyclone's there, a handful of the Marines are there, and Stim is nearly halfway done as well. So it's a big ask for Neeb to get a whole lot done with these very low energy Phoenix. But he's got the Oracle paired over there. He's at least going to get a bit of scouting information and see what potential follow-ups there are and force out a few missile turrets. Behind all this, though, Neeb is also pulling a lot of his gateway units over to the other side of the map. He is looking to get aggressive. And Hearthstone, does this have a chance of even working?
Absolutely not. There's no way. The bunker, oh, actually, with the bunker not being there. Lift on the tank, there's just not enough. The firepower out of Spirit here is just a little bit too big. Viking on the other side is also dealing some damage. I do believe that it is in the process of being taken out here by that Stalker warp in. Honestly, Neeb did more than he probably ever would have imagined. That bunker being salvaged right in that moment, obviously helping.
Yeah, you know, there's definitely a tech problem right now for Neeb. He is very far behind where he would like to be, and losing these units is going to be really brutal. I was going to say the supplies did even up, but at the end of the day, if you don't have an army to deal with that army of spirits, you're going to be going down, and Spirit takes the first game.
Yeah, in a pretty decisive fashion as well. Spirit not breaking a sweat there as the Polish crowd slapping their, what do you call them? The fire sticks?
Fire sticks? I call them boomsticks.
Boomsticks, very nice. I don't think fire sticks is the actual word. Boomstick sounds a lot better. Obviously happy that the Polish player is doing well here in front of the Polish crowd. Spirit goes up 1-0. That's on Hardwire as well. Not necessarily a Terran favorite map or a Protoss favorite map. The second map is going to be 2K as well, and I think Spirit will be happy with that. He loves these larger maps where he can throw down 5 command centers in his main base before the opponent arrives. So
yeah. You know what's I think going to be very interesting to me is that we have very much so seen a pattern forming with Neeb's play today, where it's whenever he's getting messed with in the earlier stages, whenever something's happening, his opponent's setting the pace of things, that is where Neeb has been falling apart. And I know Spirit is well known for liking to go to those later stage games and everything. Neeb typically is usually pretty good about defending against those early game aggressions, but I really wonder if Spirit is actually looking at how Neeb has played his games, talking to some of the players and saying, yeah, maybe I will just see how things go with a more aggressive opening game number 1, try something again aggressive in game number 2, and then if I need to, I can fall back to a macro game 3.
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising to see Neeb struggle in these early games. I mean, we saw him lose twice against Rogue, against a Link Flood, and here as well, he lost. And the problem isn't necessarily the theory. I mean, the theory is correct. Neeb is known as a player that studies a lot, understands the game at a very deep level, and understands the early game at a very deep level as well, which is why in the past he often was so successful against Korean Terrans. But now, he's struggling an awful lot in the early game, and it just seems to be the execution that is lacking here, Fear Dragon.
Well, if there's one thing I can say for sure, it is that Spirit is going to have a very spirited victory if he's able to take this series and get another shot at that final match and potentially advance out of the group in front of a hometown crowd here in Poland. We're going to move into game number 2 in just a moment's time to see whether or not Neeb can start to pull this series back, or if this young man down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map can make this a 2-0 victory from KaiZ Gaming. He is Spirit.
And in the top right, as the blue Protoss player, playing for Ting, it is Neeb. Alex Sunderha, as that first probe, will stay on the high ground here. It kind of feels like. Yeah, not gonna get that low ground wall this time around. I don't completely mind it. Gotta kind of switch it up as well, you know, in case of any type of proxy Reaper. And Spirit, so far in every TVP that we have watched, he really was the guy that took control in the early game. Whether that was against Australia with that fast Marine Reaper trying to pull some tricks, or with quick double gas build orders like we saw in that last game. We've seen him play that in the bracket stage as well earlier. So yeah, there's just lots of tricks up his sleeves, and he's also pretty decent, I would say, in that mid and later stage. Albeit some of a bit too passive at times.
Yeah, I know we've seen a bit of both sides of Pitor in that regard. But for now, Neeb is probably going to move in over here and feel a bit happier seeing, okay, Barracks at home, already playing a little bit more of a normal game, not seeing a second gas geyser or anything, haven't seen any SCVs move down around the map. And Neeb's also got his gateway little wall off in the main base for the Adept. This is actually looking the most normal of, I would say, a lot of Neeb's PBTs today.
Yeah, it definitely is the question now. Oh, I love this full wall that Neeb is going for, by the way. Second pylon on the high ground, usually indicating some type of Stargate play. We'll see if that's going to be the case right now, because with almost every other build that you play, if you get that second pylon on the high ground, you can get a battery on the low ground, you're in trouble. With Stargate, because you tend to have map control, good vision, doesn't really seem to be that huge of an issue. As a good old Spirit is opening up with his Marine into Reaper build, and the goal of this build is to sneak in while the second Adept is still building and the first Adept is marching across the map, as we indeed do see that Stargate go down right now.
The Adept is, or sorry, the Reaper is making its way across the map, and it will be encountering that full wall. The nice thing for the Reaper is that it still can hop up a little bit and may not be able to get into the main base deeply, but still a nice little opening you can jump into. The other way is to just literally go around everything, because that first Adept, like you said, not quite out yet.
Yeah, the first Adept is going to make its way across the map right now. The second Adept, if it's chrono boosted, by the way, will get out in time against this. So if you play against Spirit or anyone else that does this build a lot, getting a second chrono on that gateway often is worth it. I love this so much for our Terran player here. He's going to scout absolutely everything. He'll know even what the first unit is. That is so huge, because you can decide what to play. I wouldn't even mind if he cancels the Hellion at this point. He already got the info. He doesn't need to anymore.
All right. Well, not only getting a worker kill, but now also going to be able to push back this Adept with the Hellion. He does let that finish up, but the Adept shading on forward is going to be able to soften up one of the SCVs. Won't be able to get the kill, though, because the bunker is completed. And the Adept is going to take quite a bit more damage before it's able to potentially escape. It's hugging the wall, and it does manage to get out of there alive. Pairs up with some of the other Adepts, and the Reaper Grenade, of all things, picks off the Adept. Are you kidding me?
That was the dumbest interaction I've seen in my entire life, and I love every single second of that. Spirit's going to be so happy with that. Even though it's not going to be too impactful, it's just a great mental victory, isn't it?
Especially when you feel like you've already had so much momentum going into this series, and, well, Neeb's is literally the opposite so far, but Neeb is getting up some of his Phoenix. This is not a game where his Phoenix are going to be picking up Widow Mines left and right, constantly trying to defend back at home for the first couple of minutes that they're out. No, he's actually going to have an opportunity to potentially move across the map and do something with those Phoenix.
Yeah, there is a medevac out though for Spirit, which is honestly kind of surprising to see. Like a medevac and a couple of mines being built against an Oracle opener, that's just extremely rare. Majority of the time we see Terrans open up with Cyclone Viking in this case, then hopping into tanks, slightly faster third base than you usually see. Spirit, however, just going for that 3 regs, and I actually like this position for Neeb. Now I can say, okay, this is a good position for Neeb. From here on out, we can actually get into something. Most likely it's going to be charge, although there is a 4th gas already as well. And that doesn't really line up in my head, at least. Majority of the time, if you get into higher Phoenix counts, you'll get charged. You stay on lower gas because you need these extra gateways. You need the extra infrastructure.
Yeah, it definitely is reminiscent of some of the games that we were seeing yesterday, where players such as Cyan and whatnot were really skipping some of those gas guys and being very, very zealot heavy. But so far right now, Neeb is just going to be focusing on cleaning up some of these mines that he's encountering around the map. A really nice scouting, or I should say vision, with his actual eyes, not just the scouting information there, to actually spot out that Widow mine that was burrowed. Doesn't take too many losses there, but Charge is going to, of course, come up behind this as he gets up his gateway flood to complement that 3rd base that's coming on up.
Oh,
Ooh, does he scout it?
No, it's not. That's a huge move, by the way. There's no vision on the right side of the map. There's no vision on the left side of the map either. Neeb hasn't been building any pylons, which is the main source of vision when you're playing Phoenixes. You don't have observers. You don't really have the money to send out zealots everywhere either. So pylons are just this natural source of vision. And with the Phoenixes, you can kind of keep the pylons safe. They kind of keep each other safe in a way. I have no clue what this drop on the left side was doing. It just unloaded. It almost looked like he was expecting 10 Stalkers to be there, but he also saw 4 Phoenixes. So I'm a bit confused. Perhaps Spirit is a bit confused. Neeb is confused as well. So we're all sharing that, at least. It's the common experience here. As this push is going to start marching across the map, and Neeb actually stopped probing up after 60. He's getting a Templar Archive right now. He's floating a fair amount of gas. Charge will finish in time, and I think +1 will also finish before this fight truly starts.
Yeah, it does seem like Neeb will have some of the tools he needs to start deflecting this, but it is still going to be about where the engagement happens at the control. Force Field comes out and locks in quite a few of these units. The medevac picks him up. The Phoenix target fire down the medevacs, but not quite getting the medevac that had all the units in. Widowmine also softens up those Phoenix, so that shield battery is going to be working a bit of overtime as it heals up both the Zealots and the Phoenix. But it does seem like Spirit is not going to feel like he should continue pushing on forward from that angle.
Oh, double drop heading towards the right side. Still lacking that vision, is Neeb. Look at that. The entire right side is dark for him right now. He wants to clean up this position, wants to get control of the tower. Spirit not paying attention. Will need to start kiting back. A lot of these Zealots are kind of low, but the Phoenix number is high. Good target fire there out of Spirit. Getting 3 Phoenixes there. That's impressive. 4.
And this is going to make it even harder to deal with that medevac that is on that right-hand side, because he's going to have a harder time cleaning that up. Even actually does not get that last medevac. So now the Phoenix have been slightly zoned out. 3rd base is going to be having a hard time landing over there, but now the medevacs are in the main base. And Neeb, what does he actually have to respond with?
Still has a recall here, and perhaps he should be using it. Instead, he decides to go into the natural, gets a force field on the ramp. I don't think he can actually continue this push right now. There's also still an army at Neeb's 3rd base. I think it is being cleaned up by the Phoenixes right now. Spirit going absolutely ham in Neeb's main, though. Production being taken out. 1 Zealot gets warp in. That's not going to be enough.
And we start to see that Neeb is getting cleaned up in the natural of Spirit, whereas Spirit is going to be able to target fire down that Nexus, and that is, of course, going to supply block Neeb for the moment, but he did already get a lot of pylons up behind this. Phoenix going to try and chase after these medevacs, but with the boost, they might be able to unload some of these units just in time. There's no Marines to help out, though, so I think the medevacs and the Marauders are still going to have a lot of trouble getting out of here alive. Neeb is going to be up in supply at the end of all of this, but losing his main Nexus, I guess actually not the end of the world, considering the fact that he also has a 4th on the way, and Spirit's basically down to 2 mining bases.
Yeah, that final pickoff on those medevacs, the fact that there were no Marines there, was huge. If that medevac gets back home, the army supply is actually going to be quite big here for Spirit. He would have 1-1 upgrades. Mines, soon to be, once again, when that armory finishes up, will be invisible for a very long time. This is a scary engagement, though, for Neeb. I don't think he can fight this.
His army is a little bit in limbo mode right now. The Widowmine cleans up most of the Zealots on the front line. The Archons coming from behind. These medevacs really want to be able to get out of here ASAP, but those Phoenix are going to complicate things. At least they can still unload, but if Neeb cleans up these 2 medevacs, there's not that much armor supply left over to defend the natural expansion of Spirit, if Neeb even needs to push in there, which I'm not even sure he does.
No, he absolutely does not need to, but I think he can at this point. This feels like a good game scan to me. Scanning, hey, wait, do you still have workers on that 3rd base? Oh, you do? Well, that's not good. Yes, Spirit is extremely defensive, still does have that 3rd CC, which might help him, of course, with the muling and if he wants to rebuild workers. But that doesn't really seem to be the plan. He has not been building SCVs for the past minute or so.
This is going to be a do or die moment over here for Spirit in a lot of ways as he continues to just try and power as many units as possible. Neeb splits up his few remaining Phoenixes to catch any medevacs that are coming on out. There are some Widow Mines in this one, so they will be able to at least prevent that Phoenix from immediately picking off the medevac. But behind all this, Neeb has not only this killer army, he's also got the Robo Bay on the way. He's got his +2 weapons on the way. And again, 4 base versus, do we even get to call it 2 anymore, Hearthstone? I feel like it is probably just the natural at this point.
Yeah, I think there's going to be 8 or 10 patches remaining at this point. Well, Neeb is mining from a crap ton of patches. These mines will get picked off before they can burrow. I did see a second medevac on the way already. We have a scan towards that 4th base. This medevac is going to be extremely important. It will need to kill about 35 workers, and the game might be close to being even.
Yeah, that is a sad way of putting it when there's not even 35 workers at any singular base. So it's going to try and split things up. Gets a couple of workers over in the main base before one of the Widow Mines looks like it may end up falling over here in the main, and the medevac is probably going to be going with it. The Zealots denying this 3rd base. I think Spirit is going to be running out of steam here.
Yeah, the fresh mules also get taken out. I believe this command center might even burn to the ground. There is a drop on the left side of the map close to Neeb's 4th base that is looking to deal some damage. But if this is here, what is really left at home? I think the answer is not very much. Luckily, Neeb is going back home, so Spirit, well, he'll need to evacuate this position. There's still Phoenixes on the map as well. And yeah, Neeb in an extremely dominant position right now. Spirit, yeah, this should be his last hooray.
Yeah, and I will say, if you're a Neeb fan, I do feel like this is the kind of game that you want to have as your win, where it is just you winning for a fair amount of time. This is going to be maybe a little bit of a pick-me-up for Neeb, who's been having a rough day. He takes game number 2, ties up the series 1-1.
Yeah, look at that. Covered in lightning he is. Doesn't look too stoked about that game, but I think he should be happy. It wasn't the cleanest game in the early game for him either. Let's not forget, Reaper got in, got a kill, also managed to scout absolutely everything. We could ask ourselves, was that response out of Spirit the greatest? Really, within the medevac into the Viking, the mines, the Hellion, was all of that necessary? If you want to play a 3-Rex against a Stargate opener, I believe you don't need that many early units if you know exactly what's going on and you can keep your opponent back for a bit. And if you do want to get, 2 starport units out, maybe just throw it on fast third CC at that point, because you know you're going to be giving up air control for a while. It's very difficult to say. It's well, in this case it didn't really work out, of course, and then it's easy to, in hindsight being 2020, kind of criticize.
Yeah, it is worth mentioning in that game also, to your point though, is that Neeb didn't really do a lot of damage to the Phoenix to the SCV's mining. He wasn't harassing or actually getting super active and basically getting ahead with that kind of harassment. It was mostly just punishing these attempts for Spirit to try and do drops that Neeb was able to catch or try and prevent those units from moving out and everything. It really was Neeb able to punish Spirit for trying to be more active on the map than it seemed like he was actually able to support.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Neeb, of course, also had plans of attacking himself with that proxy gateway on the right side. We didn't really mention it too much, but yeah, it felt like they kind of attacked, and Neeb got a slightly more fortunate timing there, managed to get more out of that initial trade, although he did lose his main base. He had that fort going and killed so many workers.
It was a scary moment, too, because I know even you and I were kind of questioning whether or not this seemed like it was going to be working, but those force fields on the ramp really helped out, I guess, in cleaning up some of those SCVs. Well, guys, here we are. We're going to be moving into game number 3 on Curious Minds. Up here in the top left-hand side of the map, we have the red Terran player from Kaizi Gaming. He is Spirit.
And in the bottom right, spawning as the blue Protoss player, it is Neeb. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I saw a 13 pylon 14 gate here. Was that correct? I think that's a very fast gateway. I don't think this was a 12 pylon. You were introducing Spirit at that point still, but that's a quick pylon. It is on the low ground, so we could be seeing some type of fast adept. I don't think there's going to be a Zealot added in that. That doesn't really seem to be Neeb's style, usually. But maybe he's been practicing this. Let's take a look at this timing of this gateway.
Yeah, as soon as that gateway finishes up, we're going to see whether or not he's planning to plant down that Zealot. He's got the minerals for it right now, but he is just going to start building those up. more and more for the moment, which I guess really indicates more of something along the lines of getting up a Nexus or something instead.
Yeah, it was 12 pylon, by the
Yeah.
way. The gateway finishing at 114, 10 seconds earlier than it usually would, which also means that your first unit's going to hit 10 seconds faster. On small maps already, Terran is struggling to get that first bunker up. And if you hit 10 seconds faster, they're going to struggle for 10 seconds more, basically. That's what's most likely going to happen here. Marine Reaper. Now, a lot of people might think this is actually good against an opener with a fast unit, but it tends to not completely be the case because your reactor is delayed by quite a bit, right? Usually you play Marine into reactor, and instead of having one Reaper in that case, you have a reactor. So in the short term, it's slightly worse, but in the long term, it tends to be a lot better against these early gateway openings. I really hope that Spirit realizes what's happening here. He needs to throw down a bunker right now, before that second gas.
Well, it doesn't seem like there's any SCVs heading down to the low ground. There's finally one we see pairing up with that Reaper and is going to be able to get that up. Command center on the way and the factory also getting started on up. We're starting to see that Adept shade on forward and, well, Reaper is going to do a good job of zoning it out for a little bit, but Adept doesn't seem like it's going to feel confident actually trying to move into that many units right now until the backup arrives.
Yeah, and another brilliant thing here that Spirit did is that he got the second Marine before the reactor, so he definitely made the correct read. The reactor is the absolute standard after this, and you only get another Marine if you feel unsafe. Now his bunker finishes, the CC finishes, and this build has basically been destroyed. Like, Neeb invested a lot in this. This is expensive. Cutting your first worker, yeah, that costs a lot of money. And we'll see that in this game. All of his timings are going to be a bit delayed, and although this Twilight is fast, it's probably not going to be in time to get Blink for the first mine drop.
Well, Neeb's going to have to try and find some value in this situation just by denying some of the mining over in the natural, but also has to be very careful not to overstay his welcome as the first Hellion pops on out, is able to kill off the first Reaper, who should be able to get a Marine, potentially two, but now lets that Shade finish and gets out of there with at least one of those Adepts as he immediately starts up Blink behind this, adding on a couple of those gateways and getting ready for the eventual aggression that's going to be coming out of Spirit now.
Yeah, and that aggression is most likely just going to be some minor harassment, right? With this mine drop, without Blink, it's going to be really difficult. You're already lower worker count than you usually would be. It's not a great situation here for Neeb.
Hellion pops on forward, gets a full scout of everything. Gateway timing, Twilight Council likely researching that Blink and everything. So Spirit is more or less in the know that Neeb is not doing anything too crazy or funky after that initial follow-up. And, well, Widowmine's going to head over to the right-hand side. It is going to be a little bit of a question. Is Neeb going to be fully prepared? And he's already sending that probe over to that right-hand side of the north of his natural. Getting that pylon down is going to give him a little bit of advance notice on the positioning of this drop.
Yeah, Spirit actually building one extra depot before the barracks is something I don't see very often. He went 46 out of 62 there. It actually does delay your barracks a little bit. Perhaps because he knew he wanted to get that Raven before and even felt like he might want to get a tank. Doesn't quite seem to be the case yet. This mine drop is going to hit quite a bit before Blink. I'm a little bit disappointed in Spirit not realizing that Blink would not be done here after that 12th pylon, because if you see these two Adepts being chronoed out so fast, you know that Blink can't be there.
Yeah, well, looks like Neeb is going to be able to get away with it though, as the drum does not really feel confident at moving in, and now Blink is going to be finishing up in a handful of seconds, so he's able to deal with those Widowmine drops a lot more effectively if they do decide to move on in. But Spirit at least going to be able to just keep that medevac over in the corner, and Neeb effectively constantly has to be vigilant about it potentially moving in, because an unharmed medevac at full health points, you really do just need to react to it.
I think Spirit misread this, by the way. I think he saw a bunker on the high ground as well. He truly believed that this was going to be some big dedicated aggression. Meanwhile, Neeb's just building 4 stalkers saying, ta-da! Maybe I want to jump in. He sees the bunker right now, and Neeb's like, well, maybe another day. I don't think I can actually enter this base right now. Neeb's already building a Robo-Bay forge. This is kind of greedy. The infrastructure is going to stay low. We won't see 8 gateways here within it. There's 2 bunkers on the low ground. This is a big defensive investment. Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's a turret? Is there a turret in the main as well, perhaps? Not in the main.
Oh yeah, we got with some picture-in-picture there, and we did see a little bit of harassment coming in. The medevac is going to try and drop off these Widowmines as well, and okay, gets a stalker, gets a couple of probes, but not quite the damage that I think Spirit was probably looking for. It looks like it was some of that Raven auto turret harassment. Didn't find too much damage over there, and I mean, all to your point there, Harstum. At this point, Spirit is so invested on that defensive side because he clearly just misread how aggressive Neeb was playing to be, as he already had a third base and everything on the low ground that I have to assume Spirit just didn't see or something.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. He's going to allow Neeb to get a couple more warp-ins in, and perhaps even finish that Colossi, which wouldn't have finished perhaps before. Still feels like Spirit wants to move out. I do think it's correct grabbing some map control on a map like Curious Minds. I mean, the rush distance is literally 3 seconds. You fall out of bed, you're in your opponent's base. Third CC is on the way as well. You have a mine drop. This is a classic Spirit move, by the way. Sending one of these medevacs out for a double mine drop while your first push is moving out. This obviously can be spotted if you see that there's only a single medevac with this push and you know you took out the first medevac already.
Oh man, Spirit trying to take a little bit of a chance as he steams in the center of the map, expecting that the Stalkers would maybe be there. Only has that one medevac, so these units are going to take quite a bit of time to actually heal up, and doesn't actually find any of the Stalkers whatsoever. In fact, even just backing off right now as the Raven tries to move in. During all this, Neeb has finished up charge. He's going to be able to get the Raven almost. He does manage to snag that. Has a Colossus out. Neeb is looking to be in such a stellar position defensively. And the big problem, even though those supplies don't really reflect it, is that Spirit is so far behind on having that third base actually established.
Yeah, he does have a good SCV count though. So we have a double drop in the natural. Neeb is paying attention. Armory finished up. Very nice here. Good job, Spirit, with that armory timing. That was a beautiful timing there, as some of these probes will end up falling. Viking gets... What is this Viking gonna do? Oh, he's looking for the prism.
Oh, he got it.
Down. Really cool.
It has a kill, yeah. It got the warp prism.
Yeah.
Medevac is still alive. It looks like Neeb just barely missed out on that, but we're seeing a scan coming down at this location. Is he looking for a fourth base from Neeb right now?
I think Spirit is a little bit confused. He's building 2 more bunkers again. He seems to really believe that Neeb wants to attack him, and it is very possible that Neeb is going to attack. I mean, he's on 4 gas, warping in a lot of Zealots here. Templar Archives will go down, so perhaps a push with 1-2 Archons, bunch of Zealots, Colossi. I don't think Neeb can attack into this position, honestly.
That's a very tough army to try and beat in that location, especially even just with a few Siege Shanks to complement that. Neeb's Colossus count is only at 2 right now, so he would need a phenomenally good engagement to try and make this work, and I don't think going into the bunkers is really going to be the engagement he's looking for. He is poking on forward. He should start seeing the supply depots and things like that. I don't mind the idea of him picking away a little bit at some of the out-skirmish units, but if you stick around for too long, Stim is going to allow the army to pounce on you immediately.
This is a great Stalker move, by the way. Spirit is known for trying to drop around this type of army. So he kind of fakes a move out and then wants to find 1 or 2 medevacs. He has very good map vision as well right now. Neeb is playing this game very well so far, I have to admit. Fourth base already being taken as well. 2 Archons now get morphed in. Scariest point is going to be when these Ghost and the Enhanced Shockwaves hit the field, because let's be real, this army isn't that great if they don't have shield.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Enhanced Shockwave's almost halfway done, and with a situation where Spirit is so well bunkered down and hunkered down that it doesn't seem feasible for Neeb to really attack into that. Doesn't seem like Neeb is going to be able to do a whole lot before Enhanced Shockwaves finishes. So I guess the question is Neeb going to start thinking about adding on a few other unit types into his army? He's got a few more gateways adding on. He's, of course, focusing on getting up some of those upgrades as well, but no other tech really coming out just yet. And it looks like he's finally going to start adding on at least some of the disruptors.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind a second robo here. Yeah, second robo gets thrown down. These gateways will finish up. Feels like Spirit's just really gearing up for one massive push, and that massive push needs to hit honestly pretty soon before the disruptor count gets above 2 or 3.
Oh, he's starting in a little bit of a move out. He's at least poking around the map. He's got a handful of those ghosts. Gets a great EMP on a majority of the Zealots over here, and now as he fights and kites around the little edge on the map, that's going to be a really, really nice set of trades over there. Even EMPs on most of the Stalkers in the front lines as well. Doesn't quite get the Archons, but I mean, Neeb cannot really fight at this exact moment.
Yeah, he really can't. He wants to try though. I really do think that would be an error if Neeb decides to go in that position. Spirit, I'm not quite sure if he wants to go into that camping style or if he's gearing up for a massive push. A camping style on Curious Minds is it's difficult to pull off because this map is so easy to attack on. It's very difficult to defend well more than 4 base. Actually, defending more than 3 bases is already very tricky, and taking a 5th will be close to impossible. I don't even want to consider the 6th base for Spirit potentially. I don't think that perhaps Neeb should consider taking gas 5 and 6 at least. Maybe even go up to gas 7 and 8 at the same time as well. Start considering something like a Dark Shrine at some point. He does have a lot of minerals, but getting pure Zealots against a Ghost army isn't all that great.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen some Protoss players able to get to extremely scary hyper late game armies when you are just given a bit of space to breathe. If Spirit wants to play that back off and camp out style, as he's adding on a fusion core and additional command centers, I think nothing else could really say I'm ready to play this for the long term than more than that. But Neeb, yeah, as soon as he identifies that this is going to be the case, the posturing and stuff is not bad as long as he doesn't lose too much or fire disruptors into his own army. Hits his own Archons. Okay, Neeb, you know, you haven't lost anything from those mistakes just yet, but please be very careful.
Yeah, that was a bit of an error there. So 6 more gateways go down. It really feels like Neeb just wants to stay on this army forever. Great EMPs here, by the way, denying a potential recall. No super battery available either then.
Ooh.
Oh.
Snipes off a disruptor as well, as that was one of the first units on the field, but is going to be losing a handful of these units, including some of the ghosts and stuff. I don't think it's the end of the world because Spirit is also attacking on the south side, and Neeb's army is very much so not there. EMP is coming off yet again. There should be another Nexus he can recall to, but Neeb is not thinking about recalling. He's saying, well, half of your army I just picked off. The other half is on the other side of the map, so let's go.
Yeah, I actually really like this call. He has a lot of money in the bank. He has a lot of production spread over different bases as well, which means that he can still warp in a crap ton. The problem could be, though, if Spirit manages to defend his base with these tanks, and Neeb now needs to recall. This is not a recall. Ooh, this could go very wrong. Disruptor shots will go down. Vikings will move back, but Neeb seems to come out of this kind of alive. Still has a lot of money in the bank as well.
Colossus even managed to survive. Disruptors mostly managed to survive, and it's mostly just the Zealots and a handful of the Stalkers that go down on the front line. So at the end of the day, Spirit knocked down a base and basically has a very softened up orbital command as his 4th base now.
Yeah, this was just a trade, I guess. I really thought this could be the start of a massive base trade here. Ends up both players agreeing, no, actually we want to play a little bit more. Dark Shrine now is coming down, 3-3 on the way as well here for Neeb, and the first nuke is being researched in this Ghost Academy. Both of these Nexus being rebuilt as well here. First 4 Liberators. Are these the first 4? I think we already have a couple. Yeah, that would be super useful in these defensive positions. Tanks as well, though. Neeb, can you really attack into this?
I mean, maybe if he had some of the sickest disruptor shots ever, but it looks like even he is starting to reconsider that decision. Stalkers are going to blink down to the south side. There's only 1 Liberator left over right now, but that was a very, very aggressive position to attack into. It looks like he's going to try and go again. There is a Liberator harassment getting set up. He gets a great disruptor shot on that south side, and now the Siege Tank's really not close enough to cover the orbital command, which does go down. Liberator is going to try and force Neeb a little bit further back, and Neeb looking to try and snag some of those SCVs, doesn't find it, and very awkwardly is going to also get snagged by some of the Widow Mine shots. There's an orbital command or a command center just above Neeb's army as well. He just doesn't know about it yet.
Yeah, that's the most optimistic 5th base I've seen in my entire life, honestly. Like, you just see your 3rd get picked up, like, let's try the 5th, perhaps. This Prism is going to get taken out by these Marines as well. Nuke gets thrown down on that base of Neeb, who actually land and get a bunch of probes. That's a good pickup there for Spirit. Of course, Neeb's still mining a lot more than his opponent right now. But Spirit needs to just kind of stabilize, I think, initially on 4 bases, grow that Liberator count, and then try to march across the map at some point. And on Curious Mind, that can happen really, really quick. One moment where you don't have complete vision and boom, Soul is in your natural with 10 Liberators.
Yeah, I think one of the dangers here for Spirit is that he really does not have a bank right now. And yes, he's maxed out, but if he takes another poor trade, or if he actually is just taking a trade right now where it's 1-for-1, Neeb is going to be a lot happier with that because he can replenish quite a bit of army supply right now. This is a very, very nice pylon snag over here. Going to depower casual 4 gateways, and, well, Neeb can try trading out some Zealots in maybe not the most ideal way. I think he maybe killed off like 3 units there for 12 or something.
I'm quite sure if we could even call that a trade there, Fear Dragon. This is like burning your own Pokemon cards and telling your brother you traded them out. It's like, I don't think your brother will be too happy there.
I produced Ash. It was an exchange of some regard.
Yeah, it's not quite what you want. I actually believe there was an opportunity there as well for Spirit to perhaps march across the map. And Spirit now wants to take his 5th base. Oh my god, Neeb is not completely paying attention to his army right now.
Oh.
He needs to get a couple of Dark Templars out on the map to control that left side at the same time. Because I think if he loses map control here, Spirit gets in a position where they fight. I don't see Neeb win this.
This is actually getting really, really awkward just because Neeb's targets are also so much later on compared to how fast the Liberator count has actually grown. So Liberators are just able to so easily zone out Neeb's army, even snacking a Disruptor on a little bit of that retreat path. And like you said, this is Curious Minds. It's a very small map. The idea of sieging up your Liberators across the map is not really as crazy of a thought as it would be on some other armies. Oh my god, that Disruptor hit! Gonna actually open up the floodgates for the Stalkers to blink forward and sniping off every single one of those Liberators. Take back everything I said. He doesn't need it anymore. The Liberators have no cover.
Yeah, all you need to do is kill 35 supply with a single Disruptor hit. And just like that, the push ends. Who would have thought another blinking? I'm not too fond of that one, though. Liberator count just got absolutely reset, and Spirit will have to start building up again from 0. Well, from 2 at this point. Supply is still very high, though. Yeah, the bottom base out of Neeb is absolutely bananas. I love that.
I actually really like it because if this is turning into a straight-up mine out and stay extremely passive situation, Neeb mining from the future bases of Spirit is definitely one of the ways to shorten the lifespan of his style. But Neeb spend a lot of his bank to remax this army and remake a lot of it. He's remade a lot of the Disruptors, and he's going to try and take advantage of the fact that Spirit still has a lot of his army in production right now, which means if he finds him in a bad spot, he can go for this kind of attack, get the Disruptors to take out a lot of army supply, and we're starting to see that Spirit's response is abandon this base and go for the counterattack.
Yeah, and I think this is the correct play. You probably should have done it a bit faster already. If you're defending with just Liberators, it's so hard against Disruptor Stalker armies. As Spirit will push this army back temporarily. We'll take out that bottom base as well at the same time, but Neeb has so many bases that taking out just bases is not going to be good enough. Disruptors trying to defend, but too afraid to hit their own Zealot, so that Disruptor shot kind of got steered towards the side. Recall out of Neeb, and he still has 2.3k in the bank. He has superior eco, he has more workers. The only thing he's lacking right now is an army on the map. He needs to start moving on the map ASAP again, because he needs to keep Spirit at home. As long as Spirit is at home, he's not dangerous to Neeb whatsoever.
Yeah, Spirit is also really prioritizing Liberator reproduction over here, as well as adding in some more of those ghosts. 3 more Liberators being added on to, I think, the 5 or 6 that are already out. And Neeb, he had all those Stargates actually coming on up, but I haven't actually seen a whole lot of units outside of the 1 or 2, I think, Void Rays to help deal with some of the Liberator harassment coming on out. So I don't know that he can really rely on another 35 armies to Disruptor supply hit just to then blink the rest of the Stalkers on the Liberators. But yeah, he's going to try and go for that kind of game.
Yeah, I think this is completely fine. As long as you're in control of that middle area and you can threaten a 3rd base, if you're up in bases, you will always out-trade a Terran with better eco. So that's really no problem here whatsoever. We see Neeb is doing a good job. Spirit is on a bit of a timer here because he's mining less. He knows he needs to get in a position. And there's just no distraction for this army. So Neeb can just keep throwing Disruptor balls. And if he ever gets pushed back a bit, he'll just march to the left and say, ta-da, I can just take out your 3rd base and I can go into your natural if I want to. Then you need to deal with DTs without any scans.
And these are not units that right now Spirit can afford to replace. The Zealots actually just abandon ship on the 3rd base and say, well, Liberator siege up over there, so I'll just kill off some of the production as it's popping on out. Disruptors looking for some kind of connections. Not going to be able to find any, but again, like you said, Arstam, he is just zoning Spirit out, continuing to find good trades actually with these Zealots, trading against the newly produced units. And while both these players are broke, the difference in supply does not lie.
It definitely does not. I still like that Neeb is being kind of careful here with this army. I think he could move on top of it. I do believe he can win here, but there's really no hurry for him. He can be patient. He still has that bottom left side base as well. He has the top right side base, which is being set up with a couple of workers, and he's even has control of this watchtower right now. There's not enough Liberators, there's not enough bio, and at this point there's not even enough Medevacs anymore. All of these Medevacs are empty, and we see a couple of them being rebuilt. 8 more SCVs do go down somewhere, and yeah, Neeb is in firm control of this game at this moment.
Yeah, being up 2 actual mining bases is going to be a huge boon for Neeb in this situation. He's going to be able to find a couple more of these Liberators. Not necessarily the most ideal trades in the end, but he can afford it, and Spirit really can't. Spirit is effectively, he's forced to try and defend this position. No matter what happens, he needs that base. He cannot afford not to have that base anymore.
Yeah, it's It's very painful for Spirit because he needs to absolutely defend it. I like this split off though. That's kind of cool. He might be able to grab a couple of units. There's no medevacts with this army yet. Disruptor could deal a lot of damage. Neeb does pay attention here. Almost hit his own zealots once again. Blink forward, will snipe that Liberator. Another medevac goes down. And this could be perhaps the final fight if Neeb wants to engage into it. But so far he seems extremely patient. And of course there's no real reason still for him to fight.
Yeah, I mean, in a worst-case scenario, you take a really, really bad forced engagement, and there maybe is some crazy counterattack. It complicates the game. Maybe in a worst case, you end up in an even-ish situation, which I don't think that Neeb has to do right now. So he's taking it nice and slow. He's building up a little bit more of that bank as well, as he's spent most of his gas, but is building up some of those minerals for any kind of charge lot reinforcements. Finding this army, and he blinks directly on top of it, able to force out a trade while the Disruptors zone out the other side. Spirit gonna get caught with 2 Disruptor hits to the face. Double the army supply as Spirit taps out, and Neeb takes his first series of the group.